Loving God, you are the wisdom behind all mystery, the glory hidden in all that makes us wonder, the strength in all that nourishes. When our eyes are open and our spirits alert, we experience your glory around us, scattered throughout the earth, smoldering deep inside us, radiating in acts of love. Sparks of your glory reside. Deep is our joy each time we encounter you. So we gather in worship to express our reverence and praise. Together we celebrate the good we have experienced, knowing it all comes from your hand. Gracious God. Amen. Who is this man with an unclean spirit that shows up in the synagogue today? He's loud, he interrupts, he draws our attention the way an unbathed, talking to himself, homeless man would catch our attention if he showed up at St. Stephen's. It is easy to point a finger to what is wrong with other people, but we all know that to remember, if you point the finger at someone, there are always more fingers that point back to you. One should think that if a man with an unclean spirit shows up at the synagogue, there would be a lot of finger pointing. Ironically, he does not have that effect on the people in the synagogue. Their attention is on Jesus. They are astounded by his presence and teaching. It's like nothing they've ever heard before. He has authority. His words mean something. They make a difference. Even the man with an unclean spirit is shocked and intrigued by Jesus. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? Jesus is teaching in the synagogue. His authority fills not just the place, but each person there. And almost immediately, this man with an unclean spirit shows up. The presence of Jesus, the man with a clean spirit, draws out the presence of the man with an unclean spirit. Jesus has that effect on people. His authority and teaching reveal the truth about his listeners' lives. This one with the unclean spirit is an image of what the lives of those in the synagogue look like. He's not unique among them or us. He's representative, and he speaks not just for himself, but also for and as one of them. The synagogue people do not tell him to be quiet, sit down, or get out. They seem pretty happy to let him speak for them because he is one of them and they are him. His uncleanness is not about personal hygiene, immorality, being evil, or Judaism. Instead, his presence in their synagogue describes the disease of their soul, their fragmented lives, and the many voices within them. In looking at him, they see themselves, and they are astounded by the contrast of the one who has a clean spirit. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? His words betray his isolation. He senses the distance between his life and Jesus's. It's not, however, just about him. He speaks not only for himself, but for all those in the synagogue that day. He represents everyone who has ever experienced the brokenness of life. He is the spokesperson for all who feel disconnected from themselves, others, or God. He represents and describes the human condition. Behind his question is, I believe, the unspoken spoken longing and hope that Jesus would say, everything. I have everything to do with you. Those are the words that can begin to put his life back together. We are not so different. Each of us also longs for that answer because we know the separation and brokenness of your own lives. We've lived in isolation. We have been trapped in grief. We have carried the burden of guilt. The truth of those situations often reveals itself in the many masks we wear. We all project various images of how we want others to see us and how we want to see ourselves. Sometimes it's as simple and seemingly silly as saying, I can't go to the grocery store looking like this. I have no makeup on and my hair is a mess. Or we smile and say, yes, everything is just fine, and quickly change the subject when the truth is we are hanging on by a thread and not sure how we will get through the rest of the day. We don't want our life to be seen in its unmade up condition. We wear our masks to hide the truth of what our life is like and who we are. The tragedy is that they also hide who we might become. It seems that those masks most often arise from the many voices that live within us. They are the voices of condemnation and guilt, grief, fear, anger, and judgment. They are voices that keep us in constant comparison and competition with others. They are voices demanding perfectionism, asking, what have you done for me today? The voices are never satisfied. We are never able to do or be enough. Every one of those is a false voice, the voice of the unclean spirit that separates us from our authentic self, from all that we love and all who love us. We are such funny people. Deep down, we long for intimacy and authenticity, but the last thing you want is to be found out, to have someone see us for whom we truly are and who we are not. We put on a good front, hoping that it will gain us approval, acceptance, and love. We say the right things, act the right way, dress and behave the right way, even believe the right way, and all the while we are creating ourselves in the image and likeness of the unclean spirit. The irony is that those fronts we put up, those masks, keep us from having the very things we think they will gain us. Things like intimacy, love, acceptance, healing, forgiveness, and authenticity. The masks offer no possibility for life to flourish and be abundant. And still, we hold on to those false voices, voices that collectively ask, have you come to destroy us? I think the answer is yes. He comes to destroy everything that is not truly us. He comes to destroy the false voices in our lives. He comes to destroy the powers that diminish and deny the fullness of life and human dignity. He comes to destroy our false identities. Notice, however, that he does not exclude or reject the man with the unclean spirit. He clarifies for him that the unclean spirit is not his truest spirit. It's not a spirit of life. Jesus calls this man back to himself. Jesus enters the synagogue of our life and calls us back to our true self, the one made in the image and likeness of God. He calls us back into the beauty and wholeness of our original creation. Today's gospel is as much about calling forth as it's about casting out. There are two sides of the same coin. He will not run from or avoid our self-alienation and the many ways we've become estranged from ourselves. He stands with us in the midst of it, inviting us into recognition. He clarifies the truth about who we are, and he does it over and over again. He has everything to do with us. There is no aspect of our life about which he is not concerned. For every voice that denies that and leaves us crying, what have you to do with us? Jesus says, be quiet. That's not who you are. You are mine, and I have everything to do with you. Listen to that voice, and you too will be astounded at what can become of your life. Amen.